CNN sucks. And that is the topic of today's video. All right, you're tuning in to SIDLIS, which stands for Shit You Didn't Learn in School. And today's topic, the focus of this series of videos is fake news. I just put out a video earlier today, kind of glossing over the general topic of it. But today I'm going to be focusing specifically on the poster child of fake news, which is CNN. Which do you prefer? Wooden stock, polymer stock, laughing stock? That kind of sums up how a lot of people feel about CNN. Obviously not the people that watch it, but a lot of people that are more learned and branch out and go to other news networks. They look at CNN, they're like, they're a joke, all right? And there's a reason for that, because 2020's been pretty crazy. And what we've noticed this year is CNN's been working overtime with the propaganda it's putting out. That's what they do, the propaganda. And they're not a news channel. They don't put out news, all right? And they haven't for a while. And I got a list of stories I want to show you today to kind of provide a base for what I'm talking about when I say they're not real news, all right? So I don't even know where to begin. All right. Let's start with something that just came out in the news the other day. All right. Let's start with something on CNN Politics. All right. Federal criminal investigation into Hunter Biden focuses on his business dealings in China. All right. Now, the funny thing about this story is they're covering this story like it's breaking news. All right. But if you watched my last video, I pointed out that this Hunter Biden story, it actually broke in October, and CNN's barely covering it today. 2 days ago. It's a joke, all right? It's a joke because when you actually read the story, they try to frame it in such a way that we just found out about this. Hunter Biden, there's an investigation into him. You might need to look into that, right? But the funny part is, this broke in October before the election, and they flagrantly ignored it. All right, let me take you to a story. Hold on, what is this one? Yeah, look at it. CNN Business. This is October 18th. All right, because that's when this story broke. It broke in the middle of October, 3 weeks before the election, and this was their headline when it came to it. Because it broke. You see this little picture. New York Post was actually the first major news outlet to cover the story. And this is the cover. Biden's secret emails revealed. Ukraine exec thank Hunter Biden for opportunity to meet Veep dad. All right. You look into the story. I'm not going to get too much into this story specifically, but this was well known. In October, it was breaking. And in October, they didn't cover it. They called it the autonomy of New York Post dubious. Look at that word. Dubious Hunter Biden story. All right. They were downplaying this story. They were calling it a joke, and I'll just scroll down here to show you how they were handling it. Hold on. Yeah, they pretty much. So here, where is it at? They were claiming that this story is a manufactured scandal. Or Brian Stelter, that little chubby guy right there. They're calling it manufactured scandal. They're calling it, I think I can find it in here. They're calling it Russian misinformation. They were just really downplaying it, and they did not want to cover it at all. Twitter was censoring the story. Twitter was banning anyone from even showing it. And CNN went full blown, this is fake, didn't cover it at all. But that was before the election. After the election, look at that. Now they're covering it, all right? And they're acting like it's breaking news. Why would CNN do this? Well, it's pretty obvious. They are not real news outlets. They are pretty much an arm of the Democratic machine. They only put out stories that hurt conservatives and Trump specifically, all right? I think it's well known that CNN don't like Trump. They have, it's like a 24/7 circle jerk on that network of just how much they hate Trump and how horrible of a guy he is. But from Trump aside, there are other stories they cover that are just essentially garbage. Like this one, they're trying to claim look, mysterious laptop. All right. Hints of investigation emerge after President Trump's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, helped orchestrate news stories. I like how they frame that, orchestrate news stories, centered on a laptop purported to belong to Hunter Biden and said to include his business documents and other personal material. Okay, so what they're saying is essentially they are attacking Rudy Giuliani because Rudy Giuliani's in the news right now for he's running on all these cases for this election stuff. I don't want to say the word; I get taken off YouTube. I'm just gonna say election fraud. All right, I don't care if I'm on YouTube anymore. That's the point where I'm at. I don't care. I uploaded my last video was about fake news. I called out YouTube on it. I uploaded it to OogTube, which is a YouTube alternative. I already got over 100 views in a matter of an hour. Had it on YouTube at the same amount of time. 0 views. And I actually shared this story, and for whatever reason, it seems like no one's able to click or look at it. And I don't understand why. I mean, I do understand why, but I don't understand how they can justify that it's normal. Like, I don't know. You ever heard of shadow banning? It's a term that the algorithms on these sites, including YouTube, where they don't outright ban you, but they throttle your coverage. The fact that I could put on 2 different sites and I get a bunch of coverage on one site, but 0 on YouTube tells you that. Probably shadow banned, but regardless, get a little sidetracked. In this story, they pretty much regurgitate everything we've been finding out over the past 2 months, that he was doing work in China. They're challenged for a new president because they're pushing that Biden's the president-elect. Like I stated in the last video, he's not the president-elect yet. He may never be the president-elect. I just want to point that out there. But yeah, I'm not going to read this whole story. If you guys care to learn anything, look, I'm showing you the link. You can go read it yourself. You don't got to take my word for it. This came out December 10th. Go ahead and read this story. And then go back to this freaking story, which is October 18th, and read them. Put them side to side. You'll see that it's night and day. Before the election, oh, this is just Russian misinformation. After the election, oh, wow, we need to look into this. A little too late. I mean, you guys, they're already saying Joe Biden won the election, and now you guys want to speak up? I'm sorry, but I would consider that election manipulation. You're misleading people. I mean, YouTube is essentially banning people from talking about election stuff because it's misinformation. Are they ever going to take CNN down off of YouTube? I mean, they were pushing misinformation, but whatever. They're not going to be held accountable. Yeah, so what's this one? There's even audio tapes proving that CNN was hiding this story. All right. If you ever heard of Project Veritas, it's this guy named James O'Keefe, where he's kind of like, he's a real journalist. He freaking goes to places. He does investigative journalism. And I'm not sure how. It's a whole separate story, and I'm really curious how he's able to do it. But somehow he was able to get the key into the conference calls of the CNN execs. And he'd been listening in on all the CNN executive calls for months, and he's been recording them. And he's been, you call it CNN tapes. He's been releasing them slowly, and like every other day he's releasing another call. All right. And in this one specifically, I'm going to play the video for you real quick. He shows how they covered up the Hunter Biden story. CNN, the execs on their calls every day. And a regular, just want to clarify something real quick. Like a normal newsroom, the way I've heard it described to people in these circles, what happens is the execs are present at the meeting. The journalists show up and they present to the execs what they think the news is. The execs gives it the thumbs up, thumbs down. They run with the story. But CNN, it's a little backwards. All right. The exec gets on the call and they pretty much divvy the orders out. All right. We're going to be talking about this today. I mean, like, that's not news. That's a narrative building. That's storytelling. That's not real news. All right. And right here, this is exactly what it sounds like over at CNN, how they cover the news.
The Hunter Biden story was an explosive blow against Joe Biden leading up to the presidential.
Hold up. I don't know if you guys can hear me. Let me fix my audio real quick. Why is this? Here we go. Let's go.
The Hunter Biden story was an explosive blow against Joe Biden leading up to the presidential election. But listen on this 9 a.m. editorial conference call at CNN how President Jeff Zucker chooses to not cover this important story.
I think on the Breitbart, New York Post, Fox News rabbit hole of Hunter Biden, which I don't think anybody outside of that world understood last night, the Wall Street Journal reported that their review of all corporate records showed no role for Joe Biden on the Chinese deal. And yes, I do put more credibility in the Wall Street Journal than I do in the New York Post.
Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden, and which seems to be giving its marching orders to Fox News and the right-wing echo chamber about what to talk about today.
Real quick, I'm going to pause this real quick. This is another talking point to push out a lot on these left-wing echo chambers. Is they call anybody like, they would probably essentially call my channel a right-wing echo chamber. And what they're saying is Fox and all these people that don't watch CNN, that they're not getting real news, and that they're only hearing their own talking points, and that they're echo chambers, only talking to themselves, which is literally describing themselves, but replace right with left. All right, they're left-wing echo chambers because when I finish the rest of this call, all they do is talk about their version of the story, not what's really happening, not facts, not factual statements or statistics or evidence. Just this is how we feel about the story. An echo chamber, right? That's what Twitter is right now. Right? It's a left-wing echo chamber. YouTube's becoming a left-wing. It's been one, but it's with all these new policies coming out, YouTube has effectively silenced all conservatives. So it's effectively become a left-wing echo chamber. But I'll continue.
Obviously, Hunter Biden's lawyer is quoted in that New York Post piece, and we'll just continue to report out. This is the very stuff that the president was impeached over. This is the stuff that Senate committees looked at and found nothing wrong in Joe Biden's interactions with Ukrainians, and now having an email that perhaps there was a meeting with someone from Burisma is, it seems, Rudy Giuliani's sort of dream a vision of how to throw stuff at the wall in these closing days of the campaign.
Hey, Jeff, it's just David on the Burisma story, and we should be awfully careful about that, obviously. But I do think there's a media story of what in the world are Maggie Haberman and Jake Sherman doing retweeting that story.
Did you catch that last part there? Hold on, let me rewind it for you real quick. Listen very carefully to what he says. Okay, let me rewind it just a tad. Okay. Hi, Jeff. It's just David on the Burisma story, and we should be awfully careful about that, obviously. But I do think there's a media story. When he says Burisma, he's talking about the Hunter Biden story. Burisma is the name of the Ukrainian energy company that Hunter Biden was involved in. So whenever you see Burisma in any of these freaking stories, what they're referring to is this Hunter Biden story. Okay. So what he's saying is, we need to be careful about it, obviously, but I still think there's a media story. What he's talking about is, well, there's still a spin we can put on this story, essentially. And the spin on it is, what the heck are Maggie Haberman and Jake Sherman doing retweeting that story? Essentially, they're going to spin a story out of why these people are talking about it. Not what the story's about, not who is involved, not why it's significant, but why are these people talking about it? That's their freaking story. This is how CNN works. This is not a standalone incident, all right? There's another story that just came out. I don't have it pulled up, but Swale, I think his name's Swale, Californian congressman. A story just broke that he was in bed with a Chinese spy, all right? And it's I'm going to say it's all over the news, but it's on some news outlets. And when he was asked about it, his only response was, can't talk about it, it's classified. And that he was upset it was being leaked. Didn't deny it, didn't apologize for it, just said, who leaked it? Like, they're on the same wavelength, all right? I call CNN the communist media because that's what they are. a lot of these Democratic politicians are in bed with China. There's story after story. Pay attention, people. Pay attention to all the stories coming out in the last few days and the coming days. China is popping up a lot, and there's a reason for that. And it's because China is involved in a lot of the shenanigans going on in this election and a lot of the events that happened this year. Where is that coronavirus from? China. All right. I mean, everything this year, it all leads back to China. And all right, I'm going to do a separate video about that. But right now, let's focus on the communist media called, also known as CNN. Communist News Network. That's what the C stands for. It doesn't stand for cable. It stands for communist. It's also white. It's also red and white. The same, well, not white, but the red army, whatever. That last one is reaching a little bit, but you get the idea. All right. That's the kind of, this is the kind of people that work at CNN. All right. But, it's not just these guys. It's not just Jeff Zucker and David. I don't know how to say his name. There are other people that work at CNN that deserve much more criticism than even getting. You ever heard of Jeffrey Toobin? All right. And it's funny. I love how they covered this. Jeffrey Toobin, suspended from New Yorker, on leave from CNN after he exposed himself on a Zoom call. All right. Jeff Zubin is CNN's chief legal analyst. Ironic. He's the legal analyst. Look at that face. Yeah, he's not happy about this story either. Anyways, this popped up around that same time frame, October 13th. This guy is the chief legal analyst for CNN, and he was also a reporter for the New Yorker. And he was on a Zoom call with all of his colleagues for the New Yorker. And I don't have the picture here. I don't want to show you. It's kind of gross. But there's a picture of this. And on the Zoom call, I guess they went to a quick break or they paused it or they did something, right? To where people were off camera for a second. And it was one of those Zoom calls where it's like everybody, it looks like the Brady Bunch, where like all the little heads in the little boxes, right? He was in one of them, and I don't know what the hell's going on. He essentially, I don't know if I should just read this, but I'm just going to tell you what I know, all right? In the middle of the Zoom call, I don't know why, the camera turned off. This guy decided in the middle of a Zoom call with his colleagues to strip down naked. I mean, shirt off, pants off, everything. It wasn't like he just unzipped his pants underneath the table. No, this mofo stood up, took his pants off, took his shirt off, and started whacking it. All right? He started whacking away, and the camera came back on, and all of his colleagues saw his little ding ding. And oh man, it was. I thought it was pretty funny when the story came out. I mean, it's not funny that a guy thinks like he can get away with shit like this. And there was women on the call, which, was pretty inappropriate. Even if it's anybody, it doesn't have to be a woman. It could be any other person that's like not your wife, or you're not in the locker room, whatever. Anyway, that's just being naked, let alone whipping your dick out and just going to town. All right. The New Yorker fired him immediately, which I feel like is a pretty appropriate response. It was very unprofessional. It looks bad, and the story broke, so they couldn't hide it. So they're like, yeah, we don't want to be associated with you. But not CNN. CNN just put him on leave. I think he still works for CNN. CNN does not mind that behavior. That should tell you a lot. That New Yorker fired him immediately, but CNN's like, yeah, I mean, just disappear for a little bit, come back. You're fine. You're fine, Because we got some professionals over here in CNN. No, they don't. All right, so what we cover? Hunter Biden, Jeffrey Toobin. Oh yeah, see, there's other people talking about this Hunter Biden thing. They're pretty upset. All right. This is the Federalist. With this whole going on, I'm trying to expose different news outlets to other people. And the Federalist, it's pretty decent. All right, I've read some stories on and off here. Obviously these are opinion pieces, but they're not claiming not to be opinion pieces. CNN, the big thing about CNN that's really frustrating to me is they put out a lot of opinion pieces, but they claim to be non-biased, factual news reporting, and it's not their opinion pieces. But this guy here, he essentially just calls it out saying, let me just read you the first paragraph. So now that it's overwhelmingly evident that the New York Post's initial Hunter Biden and Jim Biden story, I forgot, it's not just Hunter Biden, it's Jim Biden, which is Joe Biden's brother. All right. So that story with Hunter Biden, it's not just about the son. It's about Joe himself and his brother. So when you hear Trump say the Biden crime syndicate, he's talking about the fact that the whole family's in on it. They are. All right. And I'll get to that later, but that was just for clarification for people that didn't know. So now that it's overwhelmingly evident that New York Post's initial Hunter and Jim Biden story wasn't based on hacked material, wasn't Russian misinformation, is clearly something people deserve to know before voting, and that big tech and America's corporate media tried to make sure that didn't happen, and that once again, rather than alter their behavior or ask for forgiveness, they're going to instead attempt to gaslight you about all of it. I have a number of questions. Oh, this is the guy. Once again, I'm not going to read the whole story. I'm trying to get through a lot of stuff here. But look, no, go to the Federalist. This is the headline. You could type in if you want to read the whole thing. But he just goes into, he just asks very straightforward questions. All right. This is a question for the media. Will any of them admit that they were wrong to decry the New York Post instead of stand with them? Will Politico's Jake Sherman offer a second mea culpa, I don't know what that means, in which he acknowledges that he was right to tweet the story in the first place? Sohrab Amari writes, at CNN, the same outlet now reported on Hunter's alleged oopsies, reporter Alexis Benes-Venive. Folks, you're going to find out I'm horrible with names. I'm horrible with foreign languages. Forgive me if I butcher these names. All right. Alexis, this lady, published a piece headline, The Autonomy of the New York Post's Dubious Hunter Biden Story. Oh, would you look at that? That's the one I pulled up. This lady. Yeah. All right. In which she triumphantly decried the fact that the media world has largely ignored the Post's New York Hunter Biden story. Yeah, they were celebrating the fact that the media world has largely ignored the story. Why would they celebrate that? Well, it's because they're all on the same side and they don't want the truth to get out. That's why they're celebrating it. Her colleague and CNN media reporter Brian Stelter, little Chub over here, not him, Chub right here, claimed that this is a classic example of right-wing media machine. Remember, like I told you, right-wing. That's just the word they throw out to try to like pigeonhole people that don't agree with it. Like, oh, you must be right-wing. Like, nah, fool. I'm a normal person with common sense. All right, I'm not gonna keep reading that. All right, I'm beating this to death. This isn't the only thing that CNN just gets blatantly wrong. All right, let me show you. You remember the protest that happened? The protest that happened this summer. Well, this story was published in September. According to CNN, about 93% of racial justice protests in the U.S. have been peaceful. All right, few things about this. First off, this headline is incredibly misleading. First off, this racial justice protest. Burning down a building is not a protest. Throwing bricks at cops, not a protest. Looting stores are not protests. All right. So when I say 93% of racial justice protests in the U.S. have been peaceful, get the hell out of here with that. I mean, I'm going to show you something right now. Okay, if 93% of these racial justice protests were peaceful, then tell me why. See that picture? Does that look peaceful to you? Hold on. Let me read you this real quick. This is from the town hall. This is conservative. All right. So you can call this right wing if you want, but you have to branch out and try other media outlets. All right. You need to leave your comfort zone. You need to leave the comforty, what do you call it? Look at the bottom of this. These places, they don't get the mass advertising power that a lot of these mainstream media outlets, these big corporate medias do. They have to get memberships, all right, in order to supply and get these smaller outlets any kind of leeway out there. They need the people to help pay. So I love that their code is Corrupt Joe. That's hilarious. Anyways, let me just read you the story real quick. All right. Now, a new assessment first reported by Axios showed that financial costs of the rioting is now on its way to at least $2 billion, making it the most expensive in history. The most expensive peaceful protests in history. The vandalism and looting following the death of George Floyd at the hands of Minneapolis police will cost the insurance industry more than any other violent demonstrations in recent history, Axios has learned. The number could be as much as $2 billion and possibly more, according to the Insurance Information Institute, or III, which compiles information from PCS as well as other firms that report such statistics. The protests related to George Floyd's deaths are also different because they are so widespread. It's not just happening in one city or state. It's all over the country, all right? And all of this is happening, so losses could be significantly more, all right? Here's an example how bad they are, all right? Worse, the communities hit hardest may never recover. South Los Angeles still lives with the consequences of the 1992 riots. Those riots were 28 years ago, all right? I was born in 91, so the fact that these riots happened in 92 and like they're still suffering from it should tell you what these riots have done to a lot of these other places. All right. Diamond Jones said that she felt like South LA had never recovered from those riots because if you look back at our community, there's still abandoned buildings. There's still not a lot of jobs. Look around, she said. There's still a shortage of grocery stores or restaurants that offer healthful food. It bothers me that certain affluent communities, no matter how damaged they are, will be okay. But it's not the same for minority neighborhoods, said Jones, marketing coordinator for Forever 21 and owner of the clothing store brand Dior. So essentially, according to them, it's 93% of racial justice protests in the U.S. have been peaceful. Let's just say, let's take their word for it. Let's pretend that CNN's correct and that's a factual statement. Pretend. All right. I'm going to humor them. All right. 93%. Let's do a little bit of math. That means 7% of all these protests were not peaceful. So 7% of all these racial justice protests cost $2 billion worth of damage. 7% of these protests cost $2 billion worth of damage. I'm repeating that just so it gets in your guys' head. There was a lot of protests this summer. There's some going on right now in Washington, D.C., but for a very different reason. That $2 billion worth of damage, you would think that'd be all over the news. You would think the most trusted name in news would cover that, right? No, instead they try to downplay it, make it act like it's not a big deal. Most of them are peaceful. All right. But let me go back to here. This lady, I already watched this. This lady, I'm gonna warn you. If you're a sucker for sob stories, be warned. But this lady lives in Minneapolis. All right. She was kind of in the shit shortly after George Floyd, the riots happened over there. So this is a local news reporter pretty much asking her to tell her story. So here we go.
Been hearing your frustrations, and I would love for you to share them with the community right now because you and so many others are going through such a rough time. How was last night?
Scary. I live in the high rise right back here, and I seen them as they came down Lake Street, but then they turned and started coming over here, and I'm sitting out looking out my window. And they went straight to Office Max, the dollar store, and every store over here that I go to. I have nowhere to go now. I have no way to get there because the buses aren't running. These people did this for no reason. It's not going to bring George back here. George is in a better place than we are. Last night, I'm going to be honest, I wish I was where George was because this is ridiculous. These people are tearing up our livelihood. This is the only place I could go to shop. And now I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have anywhere to get there.
Now, I just want to highlight something she said. This isn't going to bring back George. She was referring to George Floyd. She's talking about the peaceful protesters that went through Minneapolis, burned down a police station, looted and rioted, and pretty much destroyed all of downtown. You can see the graffiti all going on back there. This guy ruined the damn video. Freaking, I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but bro, you see her crying. Get the out of the shot. Anyways, she said he's in a better place than we are. Look how distraught she is. I don't think she's faking. You know, there's this thing called crisis actors that I'll get into a later video where they're paid to sob on camera and look, pretty much sell a story. I don't think she's one of these. She looks legit. She looks, that looks like a hurtful face right there. All right. And like this lady said here in South Los Angeles, how like shortage of grocery stores and stuff. She just said they destroyed all the stores in her neighborhood that, you know, essentially she can't do anything. She said the buses aren't working. She can't travel anywhere. She's screwed. All right. And I hope this lady's doing good now. I hope she figured out. I hope she's safe. I hope her family's okay. You know, I feel for her. All right. You would think the news would cover this. I mean, the local station did. I don't know. I can't tell what it is. Local stations are kind of hit and miss because, you know, local, you get some actual reporting done here and there. But CNN, you know how they covered these kind of events, these riots? Like this. This was in Kenosha. That story with Kyle Rittenhouse, that young man that went to the protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and there's more fires, more looting, more rioting. What do you call it? This is a CNN reporter, and this is what they chyron over there: fiery but mostly peaceful protests. This is because there was a shooting over there, and this is a separate story, but it's how they reported it. All right, they justify this because of the police shooting. All right, and if you look into the story of this police shooting, I won't get into it now. All right, that's a whole separate story. All right, but you could just see the jokes they made. Planet visited by mostly peaceful space station. If you don't know what that is, that's the Death Star. All right. Yes, that building is on fire, but it's a mostly peaceful riot. This is CNN. All right. They don't tell you real news affecting real people. They put out this crap that, oh, it's fine, mostly peaceful. All right. It's like, and here's another one: fiery but mostly peaceful undocumented shopping. All right, they're a running joke. That's how I brought up that very first one, laughing stock. It's because they are a laughing stock. They don't report real news, and it's, you know, I'm sorry. There's a lot of people that watch it, and they're blind to the fact of how phony they are. Okay. Is CNN ever going to be held accountable? Are they ever going to be, you know, called out for this stuff? Yeah, they have been. You don't hear about it because they're not going to report on people suing them. But this just came out today. Acting Secretary of Defense, Chief of Staff Cash Pallett files a $50 million defamation lawsuit against CNN. All right. According to him, Chief of Staff of Acting Secretary of Defense Christopher Miller has filed a $50 million defamation lawsuit against CNN and several of its top reporters, claiming that the liberal network published false statements and promoted unfounded left-wing political narratives. See, there's the verbiage. By painting Patel as a pro-Trump conspiracy theorist seeking to smear President-elect Joe Biden. The complaint filed on Friday in Virginia Circuit Court named CNN reporters Barbara Starr, Zachary Cohen, Ryan Broey, Alex. You can read the names, all right? It claims that CNN deliberately or recklessly conveyed a false message to sensationalize the news, in quotation marks, and humiliate Patel. Yeah, we're not surprised, all right? Which is why I'm sure he'll probably win, because this isn't the first time CNN's been sued, all right? There is one, this is a little bit more famous story. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this picture. I don't know who this guy is. His name's Sandman. Yeah, that's really his name, all right? But this was blown out of proportion. I think it was 2019 when it happened. But there was an incident where this kid, he was part of a Catholic school. These are all his Catholic school classmates. They were at a pro-life rally, meaning it was an anti-abortion rally. Obviously, that makes sense. They're Catholic. They're against abortion. And this guy, I'll just show you the video real quick. It's a quick one. But well, it's kind of loud. But they're banging. Let me. Yeah, see these people. you're missing context. But what this is happening right here is this guy showed up with some of his homies and instigated these kids. They're jumping up and down because they understand he's just a best way. He's an agitator. He showed up to kind of stir up the crowd, and just get them all riled up. All right. But as the video goes on, they go through the crowd. He gets into his face. He was one of the ones that was, see how everybody's jumping around being all crazy. I don't know why, but they picked the one guy that was standing there minding his own business. All right. There's some Trump hats going on here. According to the story, this kid, he just got that hat that day. All right. He was going to an anti-abortion rally. And the reason he threw on that hat is because Trump is anti-abortion. Matter of fact, most Christians are anti-abortion. All right. The values line up. That's why he wore the hat. Okay. But this guy, getting his face, he's banging on it. He just sitting there taking it. And he's like, okay, all right. He just, that little smile right there. The reason I'm bringing this up is because this story made it to CNN and they framed it in such a way to destroy his character. They said that these kids were making fun of this poor old Native American guy who, by the way, this guy's he's got a history of being another kind of, that's what we call activist, Nathan Phillip. He's an activist, which is they throw that word around a lot, but agitator, that's a better word. They were recording him trying to stir up some shit, and they caught him on camera just smiling. And CNN ran a story pretty much defaming all of these kids, okay, saying that they were instigating, they were being racist and you know, I won't say homophobic, but just like all the regular words they throw out when they defame someone. And they smeared this kid. His face was all over the news, and he was getting all kinds of hate on social media for it. But this kid got some cojones, and he said, no, that's factually false. I'm going to sue him. And guess what? It says Washington Post because it wasn't just CNN. It was Washington Post as well, but it was mainly CNN. All right, CNN was the main one to have to pay. Sandman then 16 was singled out after footage of his confrontation with Native American activist Nathan Phillips was picked up by CNN and other outlets who claimed the incident was racially motivated. They made it up. It wasn't racially motivated. It had nothing to do with race. All right, and he came over there and starting shit. So it was just like I said, crisis actors where they get paid to like act on TV, like, oh, I'm being defamed, or oh, these people are, you know, are being racist toward me. All right, it's politically motivated stuff. All right, this guy was trying to make these kids look bad, and he sued and got $250 million settlement because CNN and Washington Post, they knew damn well he was in the right. Okay. So they had to pay up because they smeared this kid, and this kid just had enough balls to actually sue him over it. So, look, CNN has a record of selling fake news. Look, they have $250 million to prove it. All right. Why would they pay that much if it was a legit story? They knew damn well it was fake. It's not the only one. It's just the one that, you know, went to court over it. All right. I think you get the story here. I think you get the point. Of what I'm trying to show, that fake news is a real thing, and CNN is literally the poster child for it. Now, you know, I could keep going. I might do a part 2 on just CNN because, you know, I'm picking on CNN just because, like I said, they're the poster child of fake news. But there are other reasons. You've ever heard of the term, the thing called Operation Mockingbird? It was a CIA program in the 50s to use mass media to manipulate the population's perception on a variety of things. All right. In other words, it's a propaganda program that the CIA put out. And you want to know who? Let me you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to show you real quick. I don't feel like talking about CNN in every video, so I'm just going to get this out of the way. All right. Operation, if I can spell. Oops. Sorry, I'm not the best speller. Operation Mockingbird. Oops. All right. I don't like Wikipedia, but I'm being lazy, so let me just show you what it is. Operation is an alleged large scale. That's why I don't like Wikipedia. They put alleged in there. They're already trying to sow doubt in this, but it's a real thing. All right. I don't feel like watching it. Just ignore that. But let me just show you what it essentially is. Operation Mockingbird is a large-scale program of the United States CIA that began in the early years of the Cold War and attempted to manipulate the news media for propaganda purposes. You can read the article, but Wikipedia it's one of these propaganda arms. That's why they put alleged there. All right. But that's a CIA program. What does that have to do with CNN? What's his name? Anderson Cooper, CIA. Look at this first story. Vanderbilt oligarch heir Anderson Cooper worked at CIA in college. What? So he's the heir to an oligarch. So he's got a rich family, powerful family, and he worked at the CIA in college. Do you know anyone that has the CIA approach him for a scholarship to the CIA? Like, what did he do? What did he do at the CIA? He claims nothing really happened, but why is he the forefront? Why is he the face of CNN? Probably, man, he even looks military the way he carries himself, all right? Very special forces, like very government like, if the CIA Operation Mockingbird is a real thing, and I believe it is, and you get a young guy in at college and you train him to be an operative, where would you want to place him? You want to place him in a position where he can influence people and run the campaign. Anderson Cooper has ties to the CIA. The CIA has propaganda programs, and he works at CNN, i.e., doesn't take a whole lot to put two together. CNN is CIA propaganda. All right, it's been like that. That's as long as he's been working there. I don't know if it's always been like that, but since he's been working there, it has been. So, food for thought. Go ahead and Google it. No, don't Google it. Sorry. Use DuckDuckGo. All right. I'm just going to start using Google. Has become a verb for a lot of Americans, and that's just branding power right there. But go ahead and web search Operation Mockingbird, Anderson Cooper, CIA. Dig into it a little yourself, all right? This video isn't to explain every little detail to you. It's to leave you a bunch of breadcrumbs and you to get up your asses and start researching this stuff yourself, because, I'm sick of having political arguments with people that turn on CNN and that's their research. Telling you right now, you're just going to be going in a circle. So that's it for this video. I'm going to end it there. Next video is coming up in a few days. I'm going to let this one hit the airwaves, see how it does. I got a podcast, but it's just Sidless Podcast. I have it in the description. I have all my links in the description. You might be watching this on YouTube, but how YouTube is, they might take it off. So if you're not finding it on there, I got a podcast, and I got a website, sidless.com, where you can find all my podcast episodes. And I'm also on OogeTube. I'm working on moving my way over to Rumble, and I'm going to be on a few sites because right now people are playing musical chairs when it comes to websites. So I'll leave it there. Hope you have a good day, and see you later.